For your homework for chapter 13, number 2, you need to set up your own Excel workbook. So I've set this up in my own way where I have my inputs, my decision variables, and then my constraints, and then the objective that I want to maximize. And to me, this is easy to read and very clear what's happening. So that's why I set it up this way. And then I started inputting my information. So I know that each desk uses 4 units of wood, each chair uses 3. A desk is 400 to profit, a chair is 250. And then I have some marketing restrictions that say that there's only 2,000 units of wood available. I don't know yet how many desks or chairs I need to produce, so I'm just going to put in something so I can check my formulas. So for wood used, I need to multiply the units produced times the wood usage per unit, and then sum the desks and chairs together, so that's perfect for a sum product formula. So my first array would be the units I produced and then the wood usage per unit. And I typed in something wrong. Oops, I had an errant comma there. Okay, so that looks correct to me. And then I have this other constraint. So my chairs produced is simply this. But I must have twice the number of desks produced. So the number of chairs produced is twice the number of desks. So I set my formula to be 2 times the number of desks. Okay, now I need to calculate profit because that's the objective that I'm going to maximize. So my profit is going to be another sum product of the units that I've produced and the profits. Okay, so if I lay out my spreadsheet really nicely, these calculations all come together and I don't have to manually type out a lot of formulas. Okay, so I have my profit now. Now I need to use Solver to solve this. So I'm going to go to my Data tab and click Solver, and then I'm going to start working on this. So I want to set my objective here by changing these cells. These are my variable cells. And now I need to add my constraints. So this must be less than or equal to this number here. I'm going to add that, and then I'm going to add that my chairs produced must be greater than or equal to the chairs required. And I'm going to hit OK because I don't have any more constraints. I want this to be a simplex problem, non-negative, and then I'm going to hit solve. Okay, great. So now I have a solution and my maximum profit. To confirm graphically, you don't have to do it exact. You can do it by hand, by estimating, but you're basically going to draw, let's see if I can do it in here, your axes, and then kind of show me how this might look. So, for example, I need to plot out my constraints. So I'm going to have, if my wood is number of desks and chairs, and this maybe won't be super clear because I'm doing it in Excel, but if my wood constraint if my constraint on chairs is here. So if I were to approximate what these functions look like, if I had chairs and desks, then my constraints and my profit function, so I have my marketing constraint, my wood constraint, and then I can see where my optimal solution might lie. My next problem is that uses Excel is going to be chapter 14, number 2, and this is a bit more complicated. So we're given a file with all of these inputs, and we have to decide which plants and warehouses to open, and then which routes from plants to warehouses and from warehouses to customers to use. And we need to meet all of our customers' demands. So we're going to try to minimize cost in this problem. Okay, so this is the file as is, and we need to, I'm going to move these constraints over here for now, and my capacity will be my other constraints. And so if I have these constraints set up this way, then I need to figure out my my routes. So I'm going to do my plant to warehouse shipments. And I'm going to set this up really quickly. Okay, so I've started to set this up so that you can see. So I have a couple things going on. I have my plant to warehouse shipments, and then I also have my warehouse to customer shipments. And so if we start with the plant to warehouse shipments, I am going to be sending some unknown amount from plant 1 to warehouse 1, from plant 1 to warehouse 2 to warehouse 3. I don't even know if I'm going to use these plants, so I'm actually going to set this to a binary 0 or 1 and have that as a decision variable as well. So I could not use some of these at all, some of these plants. And so I'm going to just input ones in here so that I can make sure that my formulas are working. But these are decision variables, so Solver will actually fill them out for us. But my total shipped is going to be, from that plant, it's just going to be the sum. And I need it to be less than or equal to, and I have this capacity constraint here, and I'm just getting that from this information that was provided to us. So this is my capacity, so I have that less than or equal to constraint, and right here, but I don't know if I'm going to use that plant or not. So my upper bound is actually going to be whether or not I use the plant times the capacity. So if I used, so then I'm just going to drag that formula down. So if I say I'm not going to use this plant, it would zero out my my shipped amount. So my shipped amount needs to be less than or equal to the bound here, and my bound is either the capacity or 0 based on whether or not I'm using the plant. Okay, so now I have to calculate some other things. So I've set this up to do warehouse to customer, and then I also need to figure out what I've received and shipped, and then what I've received and what's required. Okay, so for what I've received, I'm just summing up from what I've received from the warehouse, from each warehouse. So I'm going to drag that formula over, and then I need that to equal what I ship out. Oh, so I'm just gonna, I want to, for my own sanity, to track my constraints clearly. So I'm putting my constraint there, which is equal, and then the amount shipped is gonna, I don't know yet, but it's gonna be, for warehouse 1, the amount shipped is gonna be this cell right here. For warehouse 2, it's gonna be the amount shipped here, and then for warehouse 3, it's gonna be this cell right here. So as you can see, this is like really complicated. There's a lot to keep track of here. For my warehouse to customer shipments, so here, same thing. I know that my sum across here will be the amount shipped, and then what each customer has received will be through this column here. And I know that my customer shipments have requirements, must meet the requirements here. So customer 1 was 400, customer 2 was 300. 250, and 350. And these were also given to me. I just moved them out of the way earlier because I didn't know yet how I was going to structure this worksheet. So again, I don't know if I'm going to use my warehouse or not. I'm going to start out using all of them so that I can check my formulas. My shipments must, let's see here. Okay, so my shipments must not exceed my total demand, and my total demand is, so I can't ship more than this amount, and that's true for all of the warehouses. So I'm going to fix this and then I don't know if I'm going to use these warehouses, but my logical upper bound is going to be whether or not I use the warehouse times that demand. And I'm going to drag that formula down, and then that way I can check. So if I don't use this warehouse, okay, it zeroes out my shipments. Whew, okay, so this is a lot of stuff. I also need to calculate some things in order to figure out the costs so that I can minimize them. So let me get that set up. Okay, so I have some costs here. I have my plant to warehouse costs, my warehouse to customer costs, and then some fixed costs as well. And the fixed costs were given to me. So plant to warehouse is going to be all the shipments, whatever they are. Some of them might be 0, we don't know. So multiplied by their respective plant and warehouse route. So we're going to sum product those together. Then we're going to do the same thing for the warehouse costs with the warehouse shipments and the costs per route. Okay. And I want all of these to be dollars. Then for the plant fixed costs, so I need to multiply it. I only have a fixed cost if I use the warehouse, and I don't know yet which ones I'm going to use, but it's going to be the fixed cost per that warehouse multiplied by whether or not I use that warehouse. So in this example, that 40,000 is going to get zeroed out because I'm technically not using that warehouse. Solver will figure out for us which ones we're going to use and not use based on how we set up the constraints. Then for the warehouse, same thing. I don't know yet which ones I'm going to use. So I'm going to do my fixed costs and then whether or not I used them here. And then I need to sum up all of my costs to get my objective function that I'm going to try to minimize. Okay, now we're ready for Solver. Before I run Solver, I have 6 constraints here because I have 1, 2, 3, 4, so these going across and down, and then my binary decisions. So I'm actually going to name some ranges so that it's easier for me to see the constraints and make sure that I know what I'm doing. So I'm going to call this range use plant. I'm going to call this range use warehouse, and if you use this method of naming ranges, make sure that after you finish typing you hit enter so that it actually saves the named range. Don't click out before you save it. Then I have this set of decision variables, or these constraints here, sorry. So I have these, so we'll do to warehouse, I guess, and shipped. And then to customer, and we'll call this demand. Okay, so now I'm going to go to my solver. Data, solver. I have to be careful about this. So I have my profit right here, or my cost, sorry. I want to minimize it. Then I'm changing what cells. So I'm going to be selecting all of my cells. I have to hit Control to do this. And so I'm just holding down Control while I select those items. And then I'm going to add my constraints. So my constraints, let's do these first. This is binary, so I'm going to choose this binary here. Okay. And then I'm going to add my other binary constraint because those are easy. Okay. Then I need the shipped amount here to be less than or equal to my logical bound here. And I'm recognizing now I didn't really name my range as well. So hopefully you'll do better than I did. Okay, so that's going to be less than that. Okay, and then I have these constraints here, which need to be equal to this selection here, and then my received equal to this selection here. Okay. All right, so you can see where I did name the ranges. Now I can check, okay, use plan is binary, use warehouse is binary. This is my amount sent to my customer needs to equal the demand. Okay, great. I'm going to change this to simplex and hit solve. Okay, so I got a little bit of wonkiness. For some reason, this is basically 0. I don't know why this happened, but I'm just going to 0 those out. If that happens to you, you can just 0 them out. But my results show me that I'm using plant 1, 4, and 5, and warehouses 1 and 3. This is what I'm sending to all of my customers, and then I will get this minimized cost here. So that's the least amount that I can spend to meet all of these customer demands. So this is quite a complex problem. Watch the video a couple of times, set your stuff up deliberately and carefully like I did, and then you should be okay.